Good evening. Welcome once again to the D Irish Fan Podcast. My name is Danny, where I am not an Irish fan. I'm D Irish Fan. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. Hey, look, I know if you're new to this podcast, to this show, you're like, who's this guy? You know, why am I watching him? I will say it again. I'm going to say it 100 times. I'm a nobody from nowhere. I'm Roy Hobbs, baby. I'm a nobody from nowhere. I'm just an Irish fan like you. As a matter of fact, I'm the biggest Irish fan that you've ever met. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, because I love talking Notre Dame football. I hope you like talking Notre Dame football. And that's what we're going to keep on discussing in this podcast. If you could, please quickly like, share, comment, and subscribe. That all helps Danny continue with this show and continue getting up there in the old visibility algorithm on good old YouTube. Look, I love football. I love football. And I'm so happy it's college football season specifically. It's my favorite sport. I played baseball, but I am a football player at heart. I was a kicker in high school. I think I was a pretty good kicker, but a kicker nonetheless. So I like to say I have some football acumen, okay, where that comes from. Also being a fan and then having somewhat to do with the sport a little bit. But I'm going to talk a lot here about before we get into what this show is really about. This show is going to be continuously, I'm going to say it over and over again, a show of a standard of excellence, okay? Helping Notre Dame football get back to the top of the game. Not creeping up, not punching above their weight class, back up to the top where they belong. Irish football, national champions. That's my goal. That's why I'm doing this, to help Irish football in the small, tiny little way that I can to help them become great again. And I cannot wait to see the rise and the trajectory of this program, because I do believe it's doing this. It's no longer doing that, but it is doing this. There's a lot to go over. There's a lot to discuss. I'm going to try and move on from the NIU loss. Okay, we're going to talk today about the Purdue game. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming game against Miami of Ohio. But most of all, what we're going to get into is the standard of excellence. We're going to start there. That's what this podcast is about. That's what I'm about as a person and in my life. And I want Notre Dame football to get back to that standard of excellence, to winning national championships. That is the goal of this podcast. I don't know how long this is going to be. Hopefully it's not going to be as long as the last one, because we had to talk about some stuff. A loss to Northern Illinois University. Today, we're going to talk about a win against Purdue University. To say the least, a win is being kind. That was more like a crime. There was a couple Irish players that hit some Purdue players so hard, they're liable to be prosecuted. That was an absolute beatdown. It was an absolute beatdown. Your boy loves it. I'm here for it. That's what I'm here for. That's what we all expected against Northern Illinois. We didn't get that, to say the least. There's a bunch of trolls, and of course, rightfully, justifiably so, in the front row of the student section of Purdue. And it said, "Go Huskies." To those of you who don't know, the Northern Illinois Huskies are the ones that beat Notre Dame. Not last weekend, the weekend before. That was awesome. Props. We deserve it. We deserve it. All of you dudes who stripped down and bared your souls to the rest of the country and wrote "Go Huskies" on your bellies, on your beer bellies. Not that I'm complaining. I've got one too. Good on you. We deserve that. We deserve that. Here's the thing. I want every player from Notre Dame football who was a part of that loss to see things like that, so that they can, in turn, produce the kind of butt whooping that they did on your team last Saturday. That's what I want. I think stuff like that helps our team. Keep doing it. Keep it up. Everyone else playing Notre Dame, please tell your fan base Control Notre Dame as much as possible so that the fire can be lit underneath this football team to hold a standard of excellence that we can keep week to week to week to week. Not having these 2 weeks and then off this week. And then we got 3 more weeks and then off that week. No, doesn't help. Can't do it. Done with that. We can't do that anymore. Again, I'm going to try and move on from this NIU loss. But unfortunately, it happened this season. It's going to follow us all season. Fans, keep it up because Notre Dame football needs your help. All of you Purdue fans, you helped us. 66 to 7. Do you like apples? How do you like them apples? Anyway, enough about the Purdue game, or rather, enough about that, about the Purdue game at least. The standard of excellence. When breaking down this game, we're going to start with the standard of excellence, and we are going to go criticism first, and then we'll get to some of the good stuff. Okay, criticism first. Okay, this podcast is going to be all encompassing. It's 30,000-foot view down. It's going to include everything and everyone. People who cover the program, people who get paid to cover the program, coaches, players, alumni, fans, everyone, administration, president, the president of the university, the AD especially, all those people, everything. Everything is looked at in this podcast. Everything is talked about because it needs all of those things in order to become national champions again. It needs all of those things. Everyone's involved. That's why I want to be involved. Maybe this show gets 50 subscribers for the next 10 years and nobody sees it. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Because if they win a national title, I'll take a little bit of credit. Hoping that just one person within the program saw my little podcast, took it to heart, and did something to actually change this program. A loss to NIU doesn't help. But a beatdown against Purdue does. Now, let's continue the beatdowns. Let's continue. How does that happen? Standard of excellence. I want to... Look, I love Riley Leonard. I think he's a great human being. And he's a phenomenal athlete. We saw that with 3 touchdown runs on Saturday. My problem is going to continue to be, I'm going to continue to harp on this issue. He can't throw the ball down the field. Can he eventually? Maybe. I don't know, but we haven't seen it. Look, there's a lot of people calling for him to be benched on Saturday against Purdue. I mean, I think we all saw, you could have thrown out C.J. Carr on Saturday, started him, and we would have been just fine. We'd have been just fine. I'm not advocating that. I'm not advocating starting C.J. Carr over Riley Leonard right now. That's not what I'm advocating. I'm not even advocating Kenny Menchie or even Steve Angeli, who's the backup quarterback. I'm not advocating for an immediate benching. What I am saying is it is apparent that there is a starting quarterback on our football team who is incapable of throwing a deep pass. For whatever reason, whether it's coaching, whether it's because he missed the spring, whether because he's injured, whatever, he doesn't know the playbook, he's a transfer, whatever the problem is, he's unable to throw the deep pass. Today we didn't need it. We did need it against NIU. I'm gonna continue taking shots against Notre Dame's media coverage. I'm sorry. There's just too much water holding. I just keep hearing too much of it. Oh, Riley Leonard gives us the best opportunity to win each game. He needs to be the starter. We can't bench Steve Angeli. Okay, here's my counter argument. Last year, there was a coach who was greatly known at a university that is greatly known, very visible, who has a standard of national championships. Not competing for them, winning them. And this coach, 2 games into the season, benched his starter. For whatever reason, whether it was because he couldn't throw the deep ball even though he could, or his intermediate throws, which was what was really the problem. There was an issue there, and it lost him a football game. That football game was against Texas. The program I'm talking about is Alabama, and the coach that I'm referring to is Nick Saban. I'm going to continue to bring up these programs, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, now Texas, because they get it. Because they're winning national championships. Not Texas yet. I stress yet. They look amazing. But they're willing to make hard decisions. They're willing to do unpopular things in order to get that W. Nick Saban last year benched his starter 2 games into the year because he wasn't getting it done. He wasn't afraid about what the fans thought. He wasn't afraid about what the media was going to say about him. He wasn't afraid about losing his quarterback room. I hear that excuse a lot. And I'm not here for that. I don't care about those things. I want to put the best player on the field. I don't care if he's a freshman. I don't care if he's a senior. I don't care if he's a transfer. I don't care if he missed the season last year. I don't care. Who's the best player to put and start? From a 30,000-foot view, there's a lot of people that are seeing an issue. Like me, there's a lot of people that are seeing a problem here. We're being told very reliably, I say that sarcastically, that it's Riley Leonard. But there's a problem here. There's games being played now. This is no longer practice where we kind of have to take it on the word of those that cover the program and coach speak. I love Marcus Freeman. He's going to do the same coach speak that every other coach does. I'm sorry, he just is. And he's going to make it look like everything's okay and that the person that the decisions that they're making are the right ones. I'm sorry. We have to hold them accountable. Some of these decisions aren't the right ones. I'm going back to Alabama. He benched his starter 2 games into the season to play against South Florida. He gave a transfer quarterback, Tyler Buckner, our previous starting quarterback, an opportunity. Nick Saban went into that locker room, wasn't afraid to lose the locker room, and said, look, who wants to play? Who wants this? Who wants to be a starting quarterback at Alabama? Who wants to win national championships? I'm sorry. I got to put in the best player. I have to. We just lost the game. Jalen Milroe. You were the starter. You lost. You're out. Sorry. Tyler Buckner, you're going to get your shot. That's how it is. And he's done that 100 different times over the course of his career, and he got that best player on that field. Oh, yes, he did. He was going to get that best player. Now, whether that decision was, I'm going to put in this guy over this guy, even though I think this guy's better, but I'm going to light a fire under this guy, let him kind of look from the sidelines and see where he should be, and get that 5-star out of that player. And he made that decision, put Tyler Buckner in that game. Started him. And I'll tell you what, if Tyler Buckner would have thrown for 350 and 5 tutties, you better believe Tyler Buckner would have been the starter going forward. Guaranteed. And every Alabama fan would have been fine with it. And every Alabama coach and every player would have been just fine with it. All those receivers catching those passes and the touchdowns would have been fine with it. Because it's a standard of excellence. Get it done on the field or don't. Ride the bench or play. You'll get your opportunity. Tyler Buckner got his, and he failed. What that did do, and hey, Ty Simpson got his shot too. He was put in that game against South Florida. I watched that game. But we all know who the real starting quarterback was. It was Jalen Milroe all along. He's probably got the hot ticket to win the Heisman this year, especially now that Quinn Ewers is hurt. Nick Saban got the 5-star out of Jalen Milroe. And he did it doing something that is usually not looked too well upon in college football. A lot of people are afraid for some reason, especially people that cover the programs, especially media personalities, they get terrified. And when somebody doesn't do something well, getting benched and putting somebody else in, that is just something that is very, very resisted, especially in the Notre Dame fan base. especially in the Notre Dame media coverage. People don't like this. I don't see a problem here. I don't see the problem with doing that. Because the 5-star was pulled out of Jalen Milroe, and he played great the rest of the season, came this close to beating Michigan, which means they came this close to winning yet another national championship. I don't see the problem here. And he's on the fast track to winning the Heisman this year. One of my best friends is an Alabama fan. Shout out Jason. And you can hearken Jalen Milroe, if he wins the Heisman, and I think barring injury, I think he will. I think you're going to hearken his career all the way back to that moment. All the way back to when Nick Saban said, "You're not getting it done, bro. I'm going to put someone else in and give them a shot." You better believe that lit a fire under Jalen Milroe's butt. You better believe it did. And it benefited them going forward the rest of the season. And it's benefiting them now. I mean, now you wouldn't dream of making that scenario, but I tell you what, if Jalen Milroe could not make these passes that he's making right now to 17-year-olds, the talent out of Alabama just continues to astound me. Anyway, yeah, that doesn't help. That helps a lot too. Getting to that level where you can start recruiting that kind of talent. Anyway, you better believe Kalen DeBoer is going to have a real close watch on who's playing. He has to. He has to. That's the thing. He has no choice. The Alabama fan base is not going to let them do anything other than be successful. If you lose a game or two, there's going to be a lot of people whose jobs are up for grabs, including the head coach. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they have that standard at Alabama. We need to have that standard at Notre Dame. We used to have it. I don't know where it went wrong. I really don't. I was just that dewy-eyed schoolboy going through the late 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. Just loving Rudy, watching it twice, 2 or 3 times a year, going to Touchdown Jesus, getting my picture taken, you know? Like I was that fan. Now that I'm an adult, and the gold shine has kind of lost its luster a little bit, I'm getting to the point now where I am now the person paying for the university. I'm not the rich donor. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not the rich alumni coming back that you need to get more rich alumni to come back. But I go to those games. I buy the merchandise. People, I said this in my last podcast. I'm the person, the demographic you cannot lose. The person who is plentiful. You know, the money might be plentiful with the donors, but they're very few and far between, and that's shrinking too. I'm the demographic you need to keep because I'm the idiot that keeps coming back year after year after year thinking that it is our year. And we keep getting disappointed year after year after year after year. And I am sick and tired of it. And it's because we don't hold the standard of excellence that other programs do. Nick Saban was willing to make a difficult decision to pull out the 5-star out of Jalen Milroe. And it worked. My argument to all of you covering the program and all of you who watch Notre Dame football, why don't we do that now? See, here's the thing. We have film. We have game film now. I can't stand being gaslit. There's one thing that I can't stand anymore in life. It's gaslighting. Lying is something different. Lying is different. Gaslighting is, it's a lie that convinces you that you're the problem. That's gaslighting. There's a lie being told that makes you feel like you're the one with the problem. You're not seeing what you're really seeing. I can't stand that. I'm not saying that's what Marcus Freeman's doing. I'm not saying, I am saying that's what the administration is doing. At least they were. Maybe they're not now, but they were. I'm not saying that is what the Notre Dame media coverage is doing either, necessarily. I think they're trying to hold a lot of water, though, so that they don't piss anybody off within the program to get them kind of, Deion Sanders. This guy is critical of our program, therefore we're not going to call upon him anymore. I think people are genuinely afraid of that. Because real questions, I listen to these press conferences. Real questions are not really asked. Why didn't you go with Steve Angeli? And even when they do, they just get the same old coach speak. Well, Marcus Freeman, we played it. We played the game plan. He was kind of approached a little bit in the Miami of Ohio game press conference about the game plan, and passing the ball downfield, and he just gave the same old coach speak. Well, we devised a game plan that was best suited to beat Purdue. Okay. Fine. It's fine. But it's still not addressing the main problem with this football team. And the people carrying water are saying, well, these things take time, or he'll as long as he gets better game by game by game, then and we see a little bit of improvement, then then we can be at least a little confident. We've already lost a game. We already lost to a team we shouldn't have lost to. Before the season, all of the prognosticators came out and gave their opinions about what Notre Dame's schedule was going to be. And most people picked Notre Dame to go anywhere between 11-1 to 10-3, including your bowl game, whatever bowl game that was. Or 11-1 in the regular season. Most people were convinced. Even most people who think that Notre Dame is a playoff team were convinced they're going to lose that one game. They just didn't know who. And you heard this with all. If you at all pay attention to any Notre Dame football coverage, you hear the same exact prognostication. 11-1, and they just don't know who that one loss is going to be. I don't think any of them anticipated it being Northern Illinois. And here's the thing. If we want to make the playoff, we can't lose another one. That's over. Our mulligans are spent. Done. We can still make the playoff. If we win out, I think we will. For whatever reasons, it's Notre Dame brand, therefore we can't hold them out. Whatever, or they really are just that good. Whatever the reason, I think an 11-1 Irish football team, and even one with a loss to Northern Illinois, will get in. Especially if Northern Illinois turns out to be a 10-win type of team. I can't even believe I'm saying those words. But alas, here we are. Riley Leonard had a really good day. I think he rushed for 100 yards even. He passed for 112 yards in the air and had 3 rushing touchdowns. Still, no interceptions, which is also good. 0 passing touchdowns through 3 games. I want to put this in kind of perspective. I put this in the. I was a baseball player, so I'm going to use a lot of baseball, football comparison type of analogies. This is an equivalent to your ace on a baseball team. Your best pitcher going through 3 starts without having a single strikeout, not one. Not one. And baseball it's a different sport. You play a lot more than you do in football. But that's kind of the best thing I can come up with. That would be concerning. If my ace had no strikeouts, and the only people on my team that were throwing strikeouts were my reserve players, that would be concerning. That'd be very concerning. Also, there's something in baseball. I was a catcher. So most pitchers have anywhere between 3 and 6 pitches. The really, really, really good ones can throw 6 solid pitches. But most will just have, 2 or 3. Something fast and an off speed. And some guys will, for the most part, most guys will have fastball, curveball, or a slider, or a change. Sometimes one of those pitches is just not working. Sometimes you start a game and you warm up, and you kind of see it in warm-ups, but you see how they progress in the game. Man, their fastball, they're really painting that corner. That's good. But whenever I call for an off speed, they're sitting on that really bad hanging curve right now, and they're hitting it. So I can't call that. I'm gonna call another off speed if he has it. I'm gonna call a changeup. You don't keep throwing the pitch that he can't throw. Sometimes you have to make those adjustments. Sometimes you have to make those decisions. Sometimes you got to take the guy out of the game because he just doesn't have it that day. Again, it's a lot easier to do in baseball because your bench is a lot deeper in terms of pitching, but that's kind of the same mentality that you got to have. There's a pitch that Riley Leonard doesn't have in his repertoire, and people are starting to see it, and they are game planning against it now. Purdue did not game plan very well against this particular deficiency. I mean, wow. Purdue fans, if there's anyone watching, my boy Chris, if you happen to be watching this and you're watching it this late, dude, single high safety, playing 25 to 30 yards off the ball. I don't know that I've ever seen that in my life as a standard of play. I mean, you see it when there's like an obvious passing down maybe, or like a Hail Mary at the end of a half or at the end of a game or something. You see that. But as a matter of like game planning, we're just going to play man defense and single high all day. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that can have success against that kind of, let's just say, bad coaching. Very poor analysis. That was, I mean, and then on top of that, it's one of the more poor Power 4 tackling teams I think I've ever seen. Again, I'm trying to be objective. I don't hate Purdue. I have friends that went there. I'm trying to be as objective as humanly possible. That was just really bad. And it's kind of frustrating because I want to see where this Notre Dame football team is. And you can only really see that against tough opponents. Man, Purdue didn't have it. That was... I'm at a loss for words, and if you're a fan, you should be too. I've just never seen that. So, having that said, yeah, if you're Marcus Freeman, yeah, we're gonna devise a game plan. We're gonna prepare how we against this team. But then also, if they're gonna give us this kind of field, we're just gonna pound the ball on them. We're gonna run, and we're gonna make it look like our quarterback knows how to pass, but he doesn't. But it's not gonna matter because he and all of our running backs are just gonna take off. And that's what we're seeing. It's still an issue. He still can't do it. And like all we're asking for, at least this guy right here, all I'm asking for, I just want to see it one time. Just show me one time that you can do it. Just one pass. And there's just something keeping the offense from putting it all together. The one time against NIU that he actually did see it, it was dropped by probably our best wide receiver. And then he had another opportunity in the Purdue game, and it was a touchdown. Like, Bo Collins just ran he just ran a seam. It was a simple slot fade seam route down the seam, and totally had his guy absolutely wasted. It's still a little bit of Riley Leonard's fault because he was late. I keep hearing people say, sorry, composing myself. I keep hearing people carry water. I keep hearing people say that the reason why he didn't complete that pass is because his left guard or his left tackle ran right into him, and he did. The left tackle got driven off the ball. Who's a true freshman is another issue, but he got driven off the ball, pushed essentially right into Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard got hit, and he couldn't get all the mustard that he needed to make the pass, and it came up short. Most people are blaming that pass on that reason. The reason is he was late and he didn't scoot up in the pocket. That's the reason. He can't put it all together. That should have been like pre-snap. If you look at this play, that should have been his first read. His first, and if it was, hike the ball, two-step, pass. I mean, it was so simple. He should never have let the left tackle run into him in the first place. He's getting opportunities here, and it's still not happening. And we're seeing it game after game after game. For most quarterbacks, you're not going to have it all put together every single game. That's human nature. That's not what we're expecting. I'm not expecting Riley Leonard to be Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman Trophy last year. That's not what we're asking. Not what I'm asking. He's not doing anything resembling anything of an actual passing game. This is a problem because it will beat most of, if not all, the teams on your schedule. It will not beat Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, or Texas. It will not. Those guys are too fast for Riley Leonard on their defenses. There were several plays on Saturday that Riley Leonard ran and some of our other running backs ran that would not have been touchdowns playing those other teams, to say the least. I know that kind of goes without saying. I know most people would be like, well, yeah, because it's Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson, and Texas. Yeah, exactly. So what are we going to do? What are you going to do when you can't pass the ball and you can't run the ball? What are we doing here? We're fans, but we're not stupid. Yeah, I didn't coach, but I can watch film and I can see an open guy plain as day, just as anybody else. You don't have to gaslight me. I can see the problem. So why not fix it? We saw our backup come in on some garbage time, but he was still playing against starters, at least Purdue starters. I know, bad team, but they were still starters. They were still Power 4 level starters. He looked pretty good. He took a couple of stupid, silly sacks, and we probably see why he's the backup and not the starter. But here's the thing. Can Steve Angeli run as good as Riley Leonard? No, he can't. But you know why he doesn't have to? It's because he has two running backs that can run better than both of them. And he also showed that if he needed to get a 10, 15-yard gain, he can do that too. And he's clearly the better passer. Clearly. Again, is Steve Angeli Jaden Daniels? No. What people like me are trying to say is you need to do one of two things. You need to move forward with the guy who can run the offense, which is Steve Angeli. He's shown that he can do that. We have film, we have eyes, we can see that. I don't care who he's played. A bad Purdue team and a bad Oregon State team in the bowl game. We've seen success. We have seen zero passing success for Riley Leonard. Zero. I don't care what you saw in the spring. He didn't play in the spring. I don't care what you saw in fall camp. We've seen zero. 2 zeros. We have no success. We haven't seen it in the games when it really matters. Maybe you saw him throw a couple of touchdown passes, long touchdown passes in fall camp. That's awesome. Good for you. I haven't. We need to see it. We're not seeing it. But it's like the third play he was in, he threw a touchdown pass. Steve Angeli. Like, gosh. Either play the guy who can run the offense or pull the 5-star out of Riley Leonard. Make the tough decision. I don't understand why this is hard. I really don't. It really is a lot easier than people think. I know you don't want to disappoint people you care about. I know you don't want to disappoint, risk losing your quarterback room. The last time I checked, every single quarterback in that room, CJ Carr, Kenny Menchie, Steve Angeli, and Riley Leonard, they're all good human beings. And I think all of them would be able to see that a benching would be warranted. Especially now. Like, I thought, if nothing else, we were going to see Steve Angeli start because Riley Leonard was hurt. I guess it's not that big of a deal. We still don't know. But we didn't even see that. And then they just stuck with the same game plan. And yes, I know. We won 66-7. That's great. Purdue stinks. And they had a horrible game plan. 3 rushing touchdowns. Good on you. If you can put this together, game to game to game, all right, fine. Then we're 2017 Notre Dame. You know, where we have a quarterback who is just clearly a running threat and makes a pass every once in a while, and that's just who we are. But I think, unfortunately, what you're going to get is 2017 results. 10-3. Great. That's awesome. Hey, we won 10 games again. Man, you should be really happy with this. They're winning 10 games a year. Why are you not happy with this, Notre Dame fan? Because we're not winning national championships, person who carries water for Notre Dame. We're not winning national championships, that's why. I'm not here for 10-3 anymore. Did I expect Notre Dame to win a national title this year? No, I did not. But I think we all expected Notre Dame to make the playoff and to at least win a game, maybe even host a playoff game and win that game. I don't think that's happening with Riley Leonard. Prove it to me. Prove it to me. Prove to me, the fan, who spends a lot of money, and there's millions of like me spending millions of dollars, prove to us that you can throw the deep ball. Riley Leonard, Marcus Freeman, Mike Denbrock, you need to show us this. I know you're calling it. I know you are. I see it. I watch the games, and I've seen the opportunities. But for some reason, it's not all coming together. Whether it's a left tackle being pushed into your quarterback or an awesome wide receiver dropping a pass, there's too many excuses at this point. It's just not working. Steve Angeli can pass the ball. He can throw a deep ball. And he's not a good runner. He's not that good of a runner. He's not as good as a runner as Riley Leonard. That's okay. We have 2 really good running backs. Really, really good ones. Who are busting 70-yard plays like it's M&M's. The standard of excellence. If you think Riley Leonard's play is a standard of excellence, I'm the podcast to tell you that you are wrong. If you're a fan that thinks that, if you're a person covering the program, if you're within the program, if you are one of the coaches, if you are Mike Denbrock, and if you are Riley Leonard, you are wrong. You are wrong. And it's got to change. We get 12 precious games a year. 12, that's it. That's where football and baseball go. Baseball, you play a ton of games. One thing I heard about my baseball coach always used to say is like, you could mess up one game, but the beauty of baseball, you can get right back out there tomorrow and play again and play a good game. We don't get that with football. We get 12 games. We've already gone through 25% of our schedule, and Riley Leonard has 0 touchdown passes. When do you make the change? I keep hearing people say, well, once you get into game 6 or 7, if he hasn't done it by then, I'm like, we really don't get it. We really don't get it. Oh, game 6 or 7, if he hasn't made any touchdown passes by then, oh. Standard of excellence. It's okay to go 6 or 7 games with no touchdown passes and continuously starting that quarterback, I mean, Alabama fans, yeah, you all know. You know that's not acceptable. You all know. You don't care who it is. Jalen Milroe had 0 touchdown passes through half of the season. You would be okay with that. That's why you're probably laughing too, because You know the absurdity of that comment. I heard that today. I heard that today. Not from a coach, but from a person who covers the program. A person who gets paid to ask questions to the head coach and interpret what he sees back to us, said if he doesn't get done by game 6 or 7, then you might need to consider making a change. You got to start wondering who the problem is. I'm doing this podcast because I think it's us. I think it's the fans. I think it's the media. I think it's people who covers Notre Dame. I think it's the people that comprise the Notre Dame football administration athletically and academically. We don't know what that means anymore. We've lost it. We've lost it. It's because we've gone decades without seeing it. And we're not going to get it back until we get a head coach willing to make that kind of a hard choice. Maybe Marcus Freeman is the coach for us. Maybe they win 11 games, win 2 or 3 playoff games, and get everything our little hearts desire that we had before the season. But I tell you what isn't going to happen is until we develop a standard of excellence where we start seeing results on the field, we're not going to win a national championship. And it's hard to say that. It really is. But we gotta say hard things, and we gotta do hard things in order to get good things. Notre Dame football has to make a commitment to the standard of excellence. Riley Leonard isn't getting it done. I want Riley Leonard benched, not because I'm overreacting, not because I'm a troll, not because I don't like him. I'm not insulting the man. I think he's a great person. He can't pass downfield. That's why I think he should be benched. He's being asked to do something. He's not doing it. That's it. That's it. Okay. I'm going to get, if I were a coach, then I need to get somebody on there that can do it. And if he can't do it, then I got to go to the next guy. That's the other frustrating thing about this. It's not like, I said it before in a couple podcasts ago, we were stuck with Drew Pine in 2022. We had to play him. Because we had Steve Angeli, who was a true freshman. You don't want him playing as a true freshman. I mean, you really don't want him playing now. The person I think you really want is either Kenny Menchie or CJ Carr, but I digress. What you really need is just someone who can run the offense. That's why Riley Leonard needs to be benched. And there's no film that you can give me that says, hey, look, no, see, he can actually do this. It's one other thing I kept hearing. Well, look, his sophomore year of college, he passed for almost 3,000 yards. He knows how to pass the football. Watch his film. Watch his game film. Anyone that hasn't seen his game film or highlight reels from Duke, please, please watch. Yes, he passes the ball, but the deep throws, they are very few and far between. And I heard it again, against an ACC type of schedule, he made some of these passes and he had a passing game. Okay, great. I want to see it at Notre Dame. Why am I not seeing it at Notre Dame? The amount of water you got to carry sometimes. Standard of excellence, bro. Standard of excellence. I'm going to beat that into this phone that I'm looking at right now. Okay. I kind of beat that dead horse. Let's move on to the game, and let's talk about that real quick. I said before, Purdue was horribly unprepared. One of the worst Power 5 tackling teams I've ever seen. This was the greatest margin of victory in this rivalry series. That's saying something because Purdue Notre Dame go way back. There's been a lot of football games played at Notre Dame and at Ross-Ade Stadium. And I in my lifetime, the series has kind of gone on a hiatus in the last 5 or 6 years, but in my lifetime, we played Purdue quite a bit. That is easily the worst Purdue football team I've ever seen, at least on the field. I don't know. I was told on good authority by another person that covers Notre Dame football that this Purdue football team isn't really that bad. And maybe they're not. I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're better than what they showed, the performance that they showed. But it was just a bad team, and you didn't really have to play that good in order to win. But alas, we did, and we won big, and that's great. It was a great feeling. It was really, really good feeling. And I wanted to rub it in a lot of people's faces, but I didn't. I held back. Riley Leonard rushed the ball very well. Again, 3 touchdowns. One of those touchdown runs, man. I mean, five Purdue football players had a shot to tackle him. And one of them, all he had to do was push him out of bounds, and he couldn't even do that. Phenomenal run, and you see where Riley Leonard's strengths are. You see why he is the starter. You see why people want him to be the starter, because if he can get that downfield passing game going, he will be a weapon. Yeah, I can see that. Again, my frustration and my counter to that is he's not getting it done. And the whole, well, we just got to wait 6 or 7 games. I won't go back into it. That's just how I feel. But I can see why people want him to be the starter. I can. He is talented. He is very strong with his leg. Very strong. Another one of those, someone tried to go in under his legs and he just jumped over him. He clipped his legs a little bit, but he kept his balance and was able to still run in the end zone. Great athletic play. And he's an athletic dude. That was awesome. Seeing some of the younger guys get some touches, get some actual game reps, especially on the offensive line. Holy moly. I mean, we have lost 3 out of 5 starters since the beginning of camp, if you include Charles Jagasaw. Hopefully, Billy Schrouth will be able to come back. It sounds like he is, maybe around late October. So we're still going to have a good half of the season with him, and then obviously we'll need him in going into the playoff. But it'll be valuable reps for Rocco Spindler and Pat Coogan. Pat Coogan is now your starting center for the rest of the season because Ashton Craig is out for the whole season, leg injury. Jordan Botello also out for the season, leg injury. I'm not as much as worried about that injury, Jordan Botello's, because we have some dudes behind him. I think Boubacar Traore is a star in the making. If he can become a little bit better of a run defender, he is just going to be an absolute stud. The problem is he's very young. He's a true sophomore. And you obviously want your best 2 guys playing the position because we're going to have a long season. So you needed that depth. So that hurts in terms of depth, but we're going to get some guys back who have played that position and who can play that position. Josh Burnham's one of those guys. So I think we'll still be okay on the defensive line. The offensive line will also be okay, but we can't afford any more. I think we've hit our quota for injured offensive linemen. It sucks. But the good thing is these guys are young. They're, again, super talented. Man, I kind of stop myself at saying this because I'm sick and tired of saying it. But, man, just wait till next year. This offensive line next year is going to be sick. I mean, whoever is the starting quarterback for Notre Dame next year, they better be able to pass the ball because this offensive line is going to be championship level. It will be. It absolutely will be. That's the one thing that one of the main position groups Marcus Freeman has recruited well is offensive line. We're going to be really good. We're going to be deep. We're going to be big, and they're going to be really talented. Alas, this season, I think we're going to be... Rocco Spindler's a big dude. He's also experienced, so is Pat Coogan. It's not very often where you lose 2 starters on your offensive line in the same game, and then your backups actually have more experience than the starters. That's a rarity in college football at any level of the sport, for that matter. Ashton Craig and Bailey Schrouth, they just beat out in fall camp 2 guys who were proven veterans. So I hope they get rid of the old... the one good thing is I don't think we're going to see that stat line at the beginning of each game. Every single time they show the amount of starts that our offensive line has, because now it's upped a little bit with Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler now at center and right guard. So, let's see. Yeah, 54, Anthony Knapp. our starting left tackle. I mean, he just. I don't know if he's regressing. I don't know if he's at the same level. But he was the sole. I mean, he wasn't the sole reason why Riley Leonard wasn't able to make that pass. But if he can just hold his ground, if he can just push the guy out of the way, and not get blown off the ball, Riley Leonard has his first deep downfield touchdown pass of the season. Is he? Sullivan Absher is a big athletic kid too. Is he playing so well that Sullivan Absher isn't deserving of reps? It's kind of this is again back to the standard of excellence thing. If you're not getting it done in the games, what does it matter? I don't care how you're practicing. I keep hearing that excuse from Marcus Freeman. Well, we practiced really well, and I just don't know what happened. He's practicing really well, so we got to play him in the game. I don't care. We shouldn't care. I mean, as I said podcast before, good practices is like the same thing as saying the sky is blue. You should obviously be practicing well. Obviously. Okay? You can't tell me Sullivan Absher isn't practicing well. I'm sure he is. Both guys are practicing well. All I'm seeing, though, is one guy not getting it done. Make a change. Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. Why not? If Sullivan Absher is playing the same, okay, fine. I guess go back. I don't know. Go back to Anthony Knapp. You got to be willing to make these decisions, and they're just not making them. We're just going to keep with them until game 6 or 7, and if they don't get it done by then we'll make it. He's not getting it done. I'm not seeing great things. He was good. He was good in run blocking. He can move dudes. He's an athletic person. He's an athletic, strong person. A lot of people, and I'm talking about Anthony Knapp, I can see why he's the starter. A lot of people ragged on him because he's small. He's 6'4", 291. Those are his listings. Just because you're small doesn't mean you're strong. Just because you're big, or just because you're small doesn't mean you're weak. Just because you're big doesn't mean you're strong. But you can clearly see he is strong, and he's quick with his feet. That usually makes for a good left tackle if you're, and he's going to get bigger. He's a true freshman. He'll get bigger. But you can see why you can see why Charles Jagusah had that thing locked down. Unfortunately, he's out for the season, and Charles Jagusah is a massive human being. He's 6'7", 325. And we took him out and put in someone who's 6'4", 290. I'm going to be a little bit more lenient on the Anthony Knapp thing, just because it is more important to have the kind of continuity that you need for an offensive line, and shuffling players in and out is not necessarily a good thing. You saw that all of the loss to Louisville last year, so you do kind of generally want to stick with the guys that you had at the start of camp. Well, he's not getting it done. I don't know how long you continue with that. We'll see what happens. Keep an eye on that. But the offensive line did play good enough, obviously, to win the game. And I think going forward, if nothing else, we got more experience on the board. So going forward, I do expect to see the line playing better, hopefully, at least. Maybe that elevates Riley Leonard's game. I don't know. We'll see. Defensively, I'm sorry, I got nothing for the wide receivers because they don't catch any footballs. The running backs, they're studs. I don't know what to say. I'm not going to break down this or that. They are just absolute studs. I think it's hilarious that we try. We're like, okay, we're just going to get all right. Jared in here, just take the ball. We're going to run out the clock, and he runs for a 70-yard tutty. I mean, that's a lot more of an indictment on Purdue, but he is good enough to where if you think that, my boy safety back here is going to get him, no, he's good. He's really good. He's a starter for most Division I football teams. And the starter that we have, oh man, he is even better. Like Jeremiah Love is just. Enjoy the rest of this season and then next season because he's gone after that. That's his true junior year. He's just so talented. Just drips off of him. And the fact that we have him isolated one-on-one on deep passes even. A deep pass that Riley Leonard missed. He was another pass that there were 2 times Jeremiah Love was wide open downfield and Riley Leonard missed them both times. But hey, going back to an old argument. He's that good. He's that good to put one-on-one. And there are plays designed specifically for that. And he's just going to be a weapon. I really hope he stays healthy the rest of the year. Defensively, yeah, we lost Jordan Botello, but man, we have Boubacar Traore right behind him, who I think is going to be a stud for this football team. What I'm most excited about are the second, third stringers that got in this game. All of a sudden, at one point in time, Purdue kept all their starters in, and it looked like Notre Dame was getting faster as the game went on. There's reasons for that. For one, Purdue kept all their starters in. I don't know why they did that. I don't know if the coach is trying to teach them a lesson or what, but so of course they're tired, and then Notre Dame's putting fresh legs in. But those fresh legs were fast, to say the least. We got speed, man. If there were questions about Notre Dame's speed last season, and maybe there's some questions about Notre Dame's speed this season, you can see where Marcus Freeman is recruiting to. He's not this guy that's going to go, I'm just going to go all out for these 5 stars, even though he's getting some defensively. He's lost some too, but that's another podcast. He's recruiting for speed and length. Athleticism, speed, and length, and you're seeing that on display. There's a couple of guys that just absolutely flashed. Bryce Young. Bryce Young is a true freshman. He's 6'7", 260 pounds, and he's one of the gunners on our kickoff team, which is ridiculous. Usually you want your kickoff team to be your faster linebackers, some cornerbacks, maybe a running back or a wide receiver. And he's a defensive lineman. He's either going to be a big end or a defensive tackle when it's all said and done. He is 6'7", 260 pounds, running full speed down the field. And I think he killed somebody from the Purdue football team. I mean, he absolutely deleted this kid who didn't even have the ball. If you want to go back and watch, it's after we score our first touchdown, it's that kickoff. And you can hear the crowd audibly go, ooh! I mean, he just sent this kid into another dimension. There's a couple of I've never seen before in this football game, and I don't know I have ever seen a kid get hit that hard. I've seen some hard hits, man. Absolute derailments. I mean, you can look at some of these on YouTube, like hardest hits in college football history or whatever, That's going to be one of them someday. Just deleted this kid. It was awesome. Let's see, a couple other guys. We had one of our safeties. He's a true freshman. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'm sorry. He looked really good. Fast legs. He completely ran into Jade Mickey, which caused a 50-yard play, which eventually led to Purdue's only touchdown. But at least he did it fast. We did have a lot of good things in this game, and I'm happy that we won. But one of the reasons why I spent so much time in this podcast talking about the commitment to the standard of excellence is because that's what we have to be going forward. We have to make that commitment. We saw a lot of good things, and that was great. I'm glad we won. I'm glad we won big. Let's put together a string of these. I'm not asking for 66 points against Miami of Ohio, but I'm asking for a sound butt whooping against a MAC team that seems to elude Marcus Freeman. MAC teams. And it's looking like not a very good one either. They got 2 bad losses. So they lost to Cincinnati, and I can't even remember the team another team unworthy of Notre Dame scheduling that they lost to. They're 0-2. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be 0-3, and in a big way. So that's what I'm looking for going forward. I want to see, and I'm just asking. Okay, I'm going to ask this very politely. Coach Freeman, Coach Denbrock, Riley Leonard. Think we could get a touchdown pass, maybe? I'm just asking for a touchdown pass. I'm not even ask for a deep one. I'm gonna save that for later on down in future games. A touchdown pass, where we isolate one of our talented running backs, wide receivers, and they can break one and get in the end zone. I'm just gonna ask for that. Maybe we can get it. Maybe we can't. Maybe it's just not in the cards. I don't know. We'll wait till game 6 or 7, then we'll make a decision. I'm Danny. This is the Irish Fan Podcast. I've gone on my rants. Go Irish. Now I'm done.